Oscar Wilde, The Picture of Dorian Gray, Part 62. The lad frowned. "I don't like that explanation, Harry," he rejoined, "but I am glad you don't think I am heartless. I'm nothing of the kind. I know I'm not. And yet I must admit that this thing that has happened does not affect me as it should. It seems to me to be simply like a wonderful ending to a wonderful play. It has all the terrible beauty of a Greek tragedy, a tragedy in which I took a great part, but by which I have not been wounded." "It is an interesting question," said Lord Henry, who found an exquisite pleasure in playing on the lad's unconscious egoism. "And extremely interesting question. I fancy that the true explanation is this. It often happens that the real tragedies of life occur in such an artistic manner that they hurt us by their crude violence, their absolute incoherence, their absurd want of meaning, their entire lack of style. They affect us just as vulgarity affects us. They give us an impression of sheer brute force, and we revolt against that. Sometimes, however, a tragedy that possesses artistic elements of beauty crosses our lives. In these elements of beauty are real, the whole thing simply appeals to our sense of dramatic effects. Suddenly we find that we are no longer the actors but the uh, spectators of the play, or rather we are both. We watch ourselves, and the mere wonder of the spectacle enthralls us. In the present case, what is it that has really happened? Someone has killed herself for love of you. I wish that I had ever had such an experience. It would have made me in love with love for the rest of my life. The people who have adored me, there haven't been very many, but there have been some have always insisted on living on, long after I had ceased to care of them, or they to care of me. They have become stout and tedious, and when I meet them they go in at once for reminiscence. That awful memory of women. What a fearful thing it is, and what an utter intellectual stagnation in reveals. One should absorb the color of life, but one should never remember its details. Details are always vulgar. "I must sow poppies in my garden," said Dorian. "There is no necessity," rejoined his companion. "Life has always poppies in her hands. Of course, now and then things linger. I once wore nothing but violets all through one season as a form of artistic mourning for a romance that would not die. Ultimately, however, it did die. I forget what killed it. I think it was her proposing to sacrifice the whole world for me. That is always a dreadful moment. It fills one with the terror of eternity. Well, would you believe it? A week ago at Lady Hampshire's I found myself seated at dinner next the lady in question, and she insisted on going over the whole thing again, and ticking up the past and raking up the future. I had buried my romance in a bed of asphodel. She dragged it out again and assured me that I had spoiled her life. I am bound to state that she ate an enormous dinner, so I didn't feel any anxiety. But what a lack of state! she shouted.